everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and I have gotten a lot more books recently. So today is of course a book haul. I know I said I've been better about book buying, but November brings two things. Number one, it brings my birthday, and number two, it brings a lot of really good sales before the holidays. So let's get into the books. So first are the books that I was given this month, and to start, my lovely, lovely friend Maureen sent me Catherine or the Bower by Jane Austen, which was finished by Leo Rackus. And Catherine or the Bower was an unfinished piece of Jane Austen's. I believe she had titled it Kitty, but her family titled it Catherine or the Bower. And Leo Rackus has taken it upon himself to finish that story. So here it is in all its completed glory. And fun fact, Leo is actually a member of my Jasna chapter. So it's very cool. I know him. He's a very sweet man. And Maureen did one step better and got it signed for us, which is so sweet of her and very sweet of Leo as well. So thank you to you both. And I will be reading this in due course. Next, my wonderful, wonderful friend Jonathan was extremely generous and bought me tons of books, and thank him so, so much. Thank you, Jonathan. You may have seen him in previous vlogs of mine. So he bought me first the complete poetry and selected prose of John Donne, who's a very famous poet from the late 16th and early 17th century. I loved a couple of his poems that I read in school, which included The Flea. I found The Flea incredibly sexy, given that it's about a blood-sucking insect. But that's how good he is. So I now have all of his poems, and I'm very excited to dive into them. There are many more than I thought, however, so it may take me a while to read this, but I do hope to eventually. Next, he bought me The Labyrinth of the Spirits by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. He was responsible for buying me The Shadow of the Wind a few years ago, which I loved, and this is book number 4 in that series. I've read books 1 and 2, but I haven't read book 3 yet, so this will go on hold until I've read book 3. But it is a beautiful, beautiful edition. I mean, look at that bookstore, it's amazing. And The Shadow of the Wind, if you have not heard of it already, is an incredible story about, is it the Library of Forgotten Books or the Cemetery of Forgotten Books? Something along those lines. And this young boy in Barcelona becomes particularly attached to one book that he finds there during the Spanish Civil War, and more mysteries begin to unfold surrounding that book and its author and the boy's own life. It was really wonderful. Each of the books can be read as a standalone, but they do ultimately form a series. Next, he bought me Step Aside Pops by Kate Beaton, which is the second collection of Hark a Vagrant cartoons. He and I love this series, and I've owned the first collection for a long time, but I've never owned the second set. And it's in a hardcover too, and it's amazing. And if you've never read Hark a Vagrant cartoons, they are wonderful. They tend to focus on history or literature or both, and are just the most amazing pieces of humor. It turns out I've never actually read many of these, but she does cartoons like, for example, this one, Usurpers of the Regency, which you can pause the video here to read the whole thing. They're just hilarious. It's a very offbeat but very smart sense of humor, which I love. A lot of them are also available online, so you can look for them there. And next, for those of you who have seen my Jane Austen nonfiction video, or was it Jane Austen fiction? Watch both, because quite honestly I forgot where I shelved these. I own a great many of the annotated Jane Austen novels. They're put out by Belknap and Harvard Press. And they are really great reference books to have, as well as being the complete novels. And I had 4 of these which were also gifts from Jonathan over the years. And so he bought me the two that I was missing. The first is Persuasion, and the next is Mansfield Park. And they are just beautiful, beautiful editions with lovely illustrations and footnotes down the side, should you need them. So thank you, Jonathan, so, so much. These were so generous of you. And then came books I bought myself, but there were sales. How could I resist? The first is Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. I have heard so much about this book recently that it seemed like a sign when Simon Savage of Savage Reads created his Autumn Hibernation Readathon this week and said that the focus of it would be Lady Audley's Secret. Lady Audley's Secret is a sensation novel about Lady Audley who goes away for a while, and when she comes back, seems like a very different person. And it seems as though she is harboring some sort of awful secret. That is as much as I know, and that's about as much as you can know about it without getting into spoiler territory. However, it only arrived this week, which means it is too late for me to read it for the Hibernation Readathon, but I do hope to read it at some point in the future nonetheless. Next, a book that I ordered last month in my book haul to help the Strand finally arrived, and that was The Lady of the Camellias by Alexandre Dumas Fil, which is semi-autobiographical about his relationship with a Parisian courtesan who then became quite ill. And this formed the basis for La Traviata and the film Moulin Rouge. So I'm very excited to read this original novel and see if I get any further insights. And speaking of operatic source texts, I also found for a steal Manon Lescaut by Antoine-François Prévost, which formed the basis for the operas Manon and Manon Lescaut. I have not seen Manon Lescaut, but I love Manon by Massenet, so I wanted to read the original novel, which tells the story of the girl Manon, who is sent from the country to a convent, or at least she's on her way to a convent because she's far too high-spirited for her family. But at a coaching inn, she meets the young poet Des Grieux, and they run away together, but she is constantly torn between her love for him and her desire for riches and societal wealth. So I'm very intrigued to read this and see how it compares to the opera that I love. Plus, this edition is gorgeous. Then in that same sale, I also found for a steal The Chaperone by Laura Moriarty, which I know very little about the plot, except that it takes place in the 1920s and is about a chaperone looking after a young woman in New York City, and that it was turned into a drama that was on PBS a year or two ago, starring Elizabeth, I don't remember her last name, but she played Cora in Downton Abbey. It stars her, and it's been sitting on my DVR for a year and a half, but I've wanted to read the book before I watched it, but I didn't want to pay full price for the book as I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to love it, but this was so discounted that I felt it was a safe price. And I don't feel safe borrowing from libraries just yet. So there you have it. Those are the books that I ordered and received in November. Let me know down below if you have read any of these books and would recommend them. If you are also intrigued by these, are you particularly excited about any books that you have read this month? Let me know in the comments down below, and until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye everyone.